Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
Good. I'm having some ice cold water. It's getting a little hot. It's a little muggy.
Very, very hot here. It's hot. I'm dying a little bit over here, but it's okay.
I jumped in the lake twice today. 2 times.
So, yeah, why don't you go jump in a lake? And then you really actually jumped in a lake, you know?
And then I jump in. I run.
You jumped in.
And I jump.
That's
I don't
good.
really jump. I don't really run. I actually did jump. It's nice.
Okay.
Oh, I'm enjoying summer. How are you? How was your week?
I think it was fine. You know, it was good. My podcast is now. I had the season finale of the podcast today, so I have like 4 weeks off from that. So that's exciting. It was a good episode too. I think it was a nice one.
I think it was wonderful. Yeah.
I had Francine Prose on. She has this great new memoir about her relationship with Tony Russo, who's one of the Pentagon Papers guys back in 1974.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic book. So that was cool. Otherwise, I'm just trying to keep cool, you know, because it's, as we said, I think it's hot. Isn't it hot everywhere?
Could be. I don't know. It got warm up here. It doesn't, we like to hover around 76 with a nice gentle breeze in the summer.
You're killing me.
Or a thunderstorm. Those are the two modes. But it got up there, cranked up hot. So I hope everybody's staying cool, keeping themselves hydrated and refreshed. And I feel like it was another banner week. It does feel like we're kind of having a respite from the chaos and the cruelty. Even when he's being his worst self and they're actually putting it on television, you know, right away in comes Joe Biden. Boom. It's like dick slaps him back into his hole, you know, with some great statecraft, right? Let me show you how it's done. And just presidents all over the place in epic and historical ways, and, you know, warms all of our hearts. So I want to get into that. I think we had a great week.
We had a great week. Do you see the new decoration behind me, by the way? Speaking of great weeks.
I do see that. Yeah.
Shout out Sharon Diamond. Thank you. That's going to go out on the lawn. That's going to go out on the lawn when we're done with the show here. Yeah. Good. I want to get like a door and paint the letter, you know, spell out just Kamala on the door and put it on my lawn, because I have a very prominent lawn in this town. Just as kind of like payback. I've been looking at all these fucking MAGA flags for 8 years now. Deal with my Kamala door, I say. That's what I'm going to do.
Why a door? Am I missing something?
Because it's big. Something? It's long. It's 7 feet long.
Oh, you just want a big old piece of wood.
I want a big sign. I want a big sign that just says Kamala, and that's it.
Good. Mm-hmm. But and then just let your cats hang out on top of it, and it is a perfect campaign for you. I mean, all the cat images. I think of you every time, because she was your candidate in 2020. You wanted, she was wonderful, but you were really a Kamala stan. So
I was
good. All right. Am I putting time on the clock? Are we ready to?
Yeah, I think we got to go. Because you were talking, if you put the time on the clock, you were talking about the good week that we had, and this is something that I did not see this coming at all. I mean, it was pretty amazing. So, what happened, LB? What are your thoughts here?
Well, I mean, he got back all these prisoners, and it was, I have a couple thoughts about it. I do think, because he kept talking about the prisoners, Donald kept talking about getting the prisoners. Remember that, like weeks before?
Yeah. Putin would only get it with him, but not with Biden. He would have to wait.
Yeah. So I felt like this was like, I think he was trying to orchestrate some kind of Ronald Reagan hostages freed like thing for himself. Mm-hmm. It felt like he had starry eyes about this and probably was getting fed stuff. And then Biden just was like, the amount of effort and skill and focus it must have taken to work your relationships with other foreign leaders in such a way, with such nuance And even just a flat out, you're going to have to give this to me because it's for democracy as well. Ask, right, to get them to release the people that Putin wanted in exchange so that this prisoner swap could happen. Is, while having COVID, and just in the reporting, finding out the final sort of calls of this happening on the very day, hours before he was going to write the letter of his resignation and announce his resignation. And we had to listen to all that garbage about how he wasn't competent enough to be the president anymore. And I'm so thrilled about Kamala, and it's all working out because this senile old man was doing all that sophisticated historic statecraft. Historic. We never had prisoners like this, right? Under that kind of pressure with this thing happen while having COVID.
Yeah.
Give it up to the old man. Give it up to the old men out there. Still got it. Still
was the president of Slovenia he was talking to on the morning of the, that he announced he was stepping down as the nominee. Yeah.
It's pretty great. It's like where Melania's grandfather and father are from. And then with Germany, got them where Trump's family's from, his father and grandfather. I could have missed that part of the simulation of like Slovenia and Germany of all two countries were with these. But, he showed that he has more pull with them than Donald ever could help to be. So I'm sorry to bring the comparison back to that guy, that horrible guy that I can't wait till we never say his name again. But I do feel like, and I don't think that's why any of this happened. Why would Putin do that? Is that it was sort of like, let's show him. I just think, what a petty little nothing man who only knew what was important to his real love affair, Vladimir Putin. So these prisoners were important to Putin. This was supposedly the exchange that was going to happen for Navalny. And of course, we know what happened there. So that sort of died down. I thought it was significant that Kamala got on the phone with Navalny's widow, who is being sort of touted around amongst folks kind of trying to look at how could Russia move beyond Putin at some point and what kind of leader would emerge that would be someone that would actually fulfill a promise of democracy, since Navalny's been killed and there's a lot of attention on her. So I thought that the future female president of the United States, current VP, calling her was quite something. And, make no mistake about it, some very dangerous, horrible, evil fuckbirds got exchanged, right? Yeah. For our innocent people. But I don't know, the Kremlin's just so full of all those kinds of people. It's like there's no shortage of that evil over there. And it's worth it to me to get these Americans back. Will now a new round of Americans be rounded up? Yeah, don't go to Russia, everybody. Everybody's saying that that's from the State Department and around saying, do not go there. If you're American, get out.
Oh darn! I have to change my travel plans for the fall. I was yeah.
So those are all my thoughts on it. There's a lot of thoughts. What are your thoughts?
First of all, I was really pleasantly surprised that Kara Mirza got out also, because I was not expecting that. Yes. And I thought it was because the initial reporting was that it was Evan and
Paul
right. So I was like, oh my God, this is a real thing. Like that photo in the airplane is really amazing. I mean, that's a killer photo, of them all coming home. And I agree, like, how much worse is it to be in Russia and never be able to leave than being in some prison in Germany? They're probably nicer in the Berlin prison than in Russia right now. These guys are just going to go to the front and get killed anyway. So who cares? Let them out for innocent people, as you say. I wonder what it means with Putin. I think that was one of the things that was sort of making the rounds on Twitter. Is Putin now giving up on Trump? Is this a sign that he's like, fuck this guy out? Is he cutting his losses? Or is this just him wanting us to think that he's cutting his losses? Or really, actually, who gives a shit? It doesn't really matter.
You know, and good luck divining that. And also, you know, if it's anything about the writing being on the wall, it's, well, there was a deal in the works. And with a change of administration, not from Biden to Donald, because he'll get whatever he wants out of Donald, but from Biden to Kamala, who knows if he was going to get a chance to get his favorite assassin back. You know, he loves that guy.
Well, now they're reunited. Is there footage of them reuniting on some tarmac? You know,
is there footage of what?
Of Putin and his favorite killer reuniting on the tarmac.
Yeah.
Can we can we set it to like Salisbury Hill or something for next week?
Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's set it to some.
Yeah, some sort of rom-com thing. It's like The Notebook, but Russian. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You know what it all means, but like you said, this is somebody still, you know, doing the job masterfully as president. I mean, the other thing that happened this week that we don't have it in the topics is the, you know, the 9/11 guilty pleas, the plea bargain. I mean, I forgot those people still were alive, honestly.
Yeah.
And you know, when that happened, it was pretty amazing, because I think that I know that there are people you know, who wanted them to die, which of course, you know, but I feel like pleading guilty is admitting guilt. And I kind of like that they are admitting guilt after these long years in custody. You know, just tell us what you did, man. And we won't kill you. And that's what happened. So, you know, I think that's an accomplishment as well. I feel like Joe just has a list and he's just checking shit off this to-do list on the way out the door.
He also got the 2 of the Sinaloa cartel earlier in the week. Wasn't that just this week? He was able to get was it El Chapo's son or nephew? I don't know, one of them. But he tricked them into like just flying into the wrong place and they had to give themselves up. So he got that. He seized fentanyl at the border, record amount, unbelievable amount, that was not being trafficked in terms of the recipients of it were not immigrants or whatever. It was white American dudes picking up their fentanyl. And so they got busted. Massive bust. It's just, he's on a roll. I think, you know, as a friend of ours said, he's still got moves left in him. And let's just see where we end up here by the time, you know, he called it 100 days. It's 100 days to the election.
I wondered if that meant anything. Yeah. Least, he's running through the tape is what he's doing. You know, he's not taking the last year off like certain Democratic presidents that I could name. Okay, moving on.
Moving on. All right. Next segment.
The exchange, the change. See what we're doing.
Exchange, the change. Okay.
Okay, so I think, you know, last week we talked about Biden and giving him his flowers. Today, it became official that Kamala Harris is our nominee for president, and that's fucking awesome. That's you know, that's the main thing, and I want to first just acknowledge that how wonderful this is. If she wins, when she wins, she'll be the first woman president, obviously the first woman of color, the first Indian American, the first Gen X president, and it's about fucking time. You know, my son said today, "Oh my God, that's the best part. I'm done with the boomers in the White House." You know, I don't even think he knows what that means. But so there's this newness and there's this joy. Back in 2019, when she was running, one of her kind of taglines was "Joyful Warrior." That was one of the ways that people described her. You know, since we're all looping back to 4 years ago now, we're in this weird.
Oh my God.
We can talk about that later too.
Yeah.
So, but I think there's joy at this happening. There's joy that everybody else likes her as much as we like her, and there's joy at the newness. And I feel like it's important to feel the joy. You know, I feel like the campaign managers are feeling the joy. These are the same people that ran the Biden campaign. This is night and fucking day. They're just on a roll too. Like I can't. Yeah. The rollout has been unbelievable with this. I certainly. You know, not anything that I've ever seen before.
I know. So, it's as if people know what they're doing.
Right. But, okay, so, and I don't have any but. I want us all to feel the joy. But, okay, so she said something when she talked about accepting the thing today. So I want to read what she said. She said, The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. Okay. She didn't say that today. That was Abraham Lincoln in 1862. But it could be her today. That's the point. That's why I did the bait and switch there, because it's so freaking relevant to what's happening now. And, and I feel like that spirit that Lincoln was talking about, and I think that we're all feeling it with this joy. It's also about change, and change for kind of the better. And we have to go in and be willing to change and willing to throw out kind of the old dogmas, all the old shit that doesn't work anymore. We can't be like, well, it was always the filibuster. We got to get rid of this shit. Trump did this. This is the one thing he did do that he was successful at in his presidency, was just changing shit he didn't like. He did it for evil. We need to do it for good. Like, for example, we were talking in the production meeting today about he's at the NABJ taking questions, and there's a delay in him coming on because he doesn't want to be fact checked, and there's this battle, but just fucking tell him he's going to get he's not, okay, fine, Trump, we won't fact check you, and then go out there and then fact check him. What's he going to do? Storm off because you fact checked him? This is this kind of like bullshit respect. It's this old dog. It needs to be cast away. Just like the weird thing. Democrats never did shit like this before. We didn't make fun of people for being weird, and we're making fun of weirdos for being weird.
We are weird.
And it's working. It's working.
Yeah.
And we got Biden getting stuff done. We're on the offensive. It feels like that's part of the joy here, is that we're on the offensive, and it feels good to have the ball and be throwing the ball long and scoring touchdowns and shit, rather than constantly letting these assholes control the narrative. So my point here with all of this is that we can't stop now. We can't stop in November. We can't stop when she gets elected. We have to keep up this momentum of change. We have to keep it up. We have to reform the court. We have to safeguard the election. We have to shut down all the fuckery, using every goddamn tool at our disposal, including if they try to do some stuff. We're going to talk to our guest about this scenario in the next segment, just as a little segue. If they try to, engage in fuckery, Biden needs to shut that shit down using his immunity powers and anything he can think of. And when Kamala comes in, they need to be the anti-originalists. They need to say that the Constitution was designed and written so that white property-owning slaveholders could run everything. It's an oligarchy in the document. If we're going to change the document with the time, we have to be the anti-originalist, and we have to make the Constitution work for us in the way that it's supposed to do, in the theory of it that Thomas Jefferson wrote about and then ignored, which is that, we have to make it so that we're all equal, we're all free. And that's what we have to do. So Electoral College has to go. The filibuster in the Senate, that shit's got to go. Wyoming having 2 senators and California having 2 senators, that's fucking stupid. That needs to go. Anything that, if you go to Europe and you have to explain to somebody that's European why we're doing some dumb thing that makes no sense at all that shit has to go. We have to modernize with the times, and everybody wants that. That's what everybody wants, okay? And I feel like it's not enough for her to win. It's not enough for her to get in there and be like, I'm the first one. She has to take all of this momentum and really make change. And I think that she will. So this is the end of Lincoln's speech. He said, "We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth." And that's it. That's where we're at. We're the same thing that's happening in 1864 is happening now. It's a little bit different with the circumstances, but it's the same sort of inflection point. And we need to prevail, and we need to not do what they did after the Civil War, which is give up too soon and show mercy on all the fucking insurrectionists. If they just didn't do that, if they treated the insurrectionists the way that they should have, country would be in a lot better shape right now. So that's my thing. I think it's going to happen. I think Kamala's just the right person to do it, and I'm very excited about it. So that's what I have to say.
It.
Joy.
I'm not going to stomp on your joy. I share the joy. I think, for me, I don't want to be in huge wish fulfillment place. I want to be really present, really in the now, and keep, as you say, just keep the momentum going. I think one thing that we will see happen, because it's already, the gauntlet's been thrown down, is a reforming of the Supreme Court, at least the Code of Ethics, adopting the Code of Ethics. And Joe Biden has spelled out, he's got his 3 things that he's shooting for. Now, whether he can do those alone as president or whether he needs an act of Congress, just declaring it from that office and saying, this is important. We've looked into this back in 2020. It's back on the table. We need to pay attention to it. He is prioritizing the court and the reform that is necessary. So I think I don't think that's going to get left on the field. I think that ball is going to be picked up and it's going to keep on running until it starts. It makes sense. I mean, that the court needs to, at least on a very basic level, make sense. It can't just be this radical, insane thing that it's become. So we have a guest. Our timer's going to go off. 1 second. Perfect. We have a guest who will help us get into some interesting angles on all of that. I cannot wait for him to come on. But first, I think we've got, we got to pay for this show, and we have a sponsor, right?
It's not even a sponsor. There's other people are interested. The Kamala is popular in circles that we had no idea.
Breaking through.
We just had no idea.
So we watched all these calls on the Zoom. Black women for Kamala, black men for Kamala, white dudes for Kamala. But still you're undecided. I mean, sure, Donnie one stitches us still not, but there's no way he's going to crack down on what we do. Do we want a prosecutor and former AG, or a mook who met his 3rd wife at the Bada Bing? Hi, I'm Nunzio Ciccarelli, president of the Bank of the Bada Bing, here to tell you about an online event, Wise Guys for Kamala. Think of it as a sit-down, but on the Zoom. All wise guys are welcome to attend, even if you got a rap sheet so you can't vote. Or maybe you don't want some broad to be capo de tutti capi of the United States. I get it. But here's the thing about Trump. Yeah, he's tight with lots of made men, but he's in with the Russians, not the Italians. He ratted out Sammy the Bull. You think he won't stab you in the back? Scheduled to speak at Wise Guys for Kamala are Italian Dom Cefalo, Mickey the Nose Mancuso, Big Mike DeSantis, and all 3 of Frank Sinatra's grandkids. Wise Guys for Kamala. Join the Zoom or sleep with the fishes. And now, back to the show.
Well, I mean, who knew? Who knew? You would think organized crime would be for Trump, but apparently not.
You would think, but apparently not. Well, he's he's not the greatest thing they've ever produced. So, I might have to break into that call. Check it out.
I would enjoy that. I think they would enjoy it too if you did. They like to know, people that appreciate what they're doing, people that appreciate their handiwork. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've teed this up, and we're actually kind of on schedule for once, which is also.
Oh my gosh!
We're really like Joe Biden. We're like, we're working on all cylinders here. Our guest is the former editor-in-chief of Salon. He's the author of Rat Fucked: Why Your Vote Doesn't Count, and his new book is called ANTIDEMOCRATIC: Inside the Far Right's 50-Year Plan to Control American Elections. David Daley, welcome to the 5-8.
Hello, thanks for having me on, everybody. Great to be here.
It's nice to see you.
Cheers.
Cheers. I'm glad. Okay,
cheers.
good.
You got the rosé. Yeah, great. You got a Manhattan. I've got my water. Here we go.
Yeah. It's a good day for I like a rosé when it's hot out. It's nice.
Exactly.
It's
nice hot day, it'll take the crisp edge off it all.
Yeah. So this may be starting at the end, kind of, but okay, there's urgent need to reform the Supreme Court. It's awful. So Biden kind of recently threw out these proposals. I wondered what you made of the proposals. Do they go far enough? Do they agree with what you think should be done? And what else should we be doing realistically?
No, it's a great question. I think it's a start. I think it's a much needed and well overdue start. There were a lot of us in the middle of the 2020 campaign who were talking about the dramatic need for huge structural reform in American politics, because we were looking at all of the things that you were just talking about, the Electoral College, the weighted imbalance of the U.S. Senate, the insane gerrymandering of Congress and state legislatures all around the country, and this renegade Supreme Court that Trump stole and installed his Federalist Society acolytes on, that Leonard Leo was allowed to pack the United States Supreme Court. And we said, well, the next president needs to fix this, especially if they've got a trifecta in Washington. And Biden commissioned a blue ribbon panel and stuffed it in a drawer. And in the meantime, what we had was the Dobbs decision, and we had the immunity decision. And now we're finally getting around to saying, okay, well, we ought to have some term limits. We ought to have an ethics clause. And yes, all of those things are really important. I think the term limits are a pretty good start. Ethics clause, when the Supreme Court has turned into a 9-person legislature that effectively, with lifelong tenure and no accountability, is deciding huge questions in private, it would be nice to know who's paying their kids' tuition and buying their mom's houses and sending them on vacation. So yes, the ethics clauses are absolutely essential. But I think what we have to do is we have to go a whole lot further, because if we don't right size, if we don't add justices onto this court, the current constitution of this is going to stay the way it is for the next 35 or 40 years. That's our lifetime. It's well into our kids' lifetimes. We can stand up and we can fight for a Supreme Court that is actually one of 3 branches of government and not the dominant branch of government. We can stand up and fight for a court that has not been handpicked and hand-selected and vetted by Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society and his big money octopus network donors, or we can lie back and we can accept what they have in mind for us. And I'm of the mind to fight.
Here.
I love what you just said, that it's effectively become a lifetime appointed, not even elected, 9-person legislature that's meeting in secret and making decisions over all of us.
It's really a 6-person legislature, actually.
Yeah, it is. It's a 6-person legislature.
Yeah.
All Catholic.
Yeah. Radical Catholic. Weirdo Catholic.
Weirdos.
The word is weirdo.
Catholic weirdos.
That's the word I use, as opposed to normal mainline Catholic. Okay. So speaking of radical Catholic weirdos, now your book gets into John Roberts a lot, because the way that the book, which is called ANTIDEMOCRATIC, is structured, it's around the Voting Rights Act and how this one guy, basically made it his mission to go in there and hack this thing to bits. So he came in and said, I'm only going to, and you talk about this in the book, I'm only going to call balls and strikes. He called balls, and last time somebody called balls and strikes this ridiculously was like Leslie Nielsen and the Naked Gun. But what I remember when they shot down the Voting Rights Act, whatever year that was, and him basically saying, we don't need it anymore. Yeah, it's good. We're good now.
Things have changed in the South.
Yeah. Like what? Talk about that for me. Is there any truth to that at all? Like, what is he talking about? And how did that fly?
The day that John Roberts said that things have changed in the South, when the Shelby County decision came down in June of 2013. So the court issues its opinions right a little after 10 in the morning. Not an hour later on Twitter, the governor of Texas says we're going to enact our extreme voter ID bill that the state of Texas knew disenfranchised more than 600,000 Latino voters who were citizens, who were registered voters, but they lacked the specific forms of ID that this new law required, because the state went out and investigated which forms of ID certain people had and were likely to have, and then picked the forms of ID for gun owners and hunters that made it easier for their people to vote, and then took away student IDs or public housing IDs or anything else that might make it okay for anybody else to vote. So if John Roberts thought that things had changed in the South, 1 hour really should have been enough to prove him wrong. We've now had 12 years to prove him wrong. 12 years of voter suppression across the South, of draconian new laws in Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana and South Carolina and Georgia. We have had, with the lack of preclearance, which is really what happened in the Shelby County case, they put an end to preclearance, which was the enforcement mechanism by which states that had the worst history of racial voting suppression in their past had to go to Washington and run any changes they did past the government before they did it. That included electoral maps. So state legislatures in Arizona, in Texas, in Georgia, all of these gerrymandered bodies that are going after abortion rights, that are taking Black history out of the schools. All of this flows from what happened in Shelby County. And what John Roberts said in that case was that, well, not only have things changed in the South, but we still have Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So if there's any issues, we can simply use that. And then, of course, predictably, the court got to work going after Section 2, and they've continually whittled down that to the point that it barely even exists anymore. Getting rid of voting rights has been John Roberts' life work. Wow. He is not an umpire calling balls and strikes. He came to Washington as a young person in 1982. He joins the Reagan administration in the Department of Justice, and he gets to work battling the extension and the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act in 1982. He is leading the way in the 80s against the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act. And John Roberts lost in that case. And what he and the others in the conservative legal movement learned from that fight in 1982 was that they were not going to get the kind of changes that they wanted to make through the political process, because people didn't agree with them and thought that they were crazy and wrong and weird, but that they could go ahead and get these changes if they took over the courts. They did not need 51 senators and 218 members of Congress. They needed 5 like-minded people on the Supreme Court, and that was a whole hell of a lot easier to do.
Wow.
Oh my God. This is the thing that puzzles me. Like, why? What's his deal? Like, why does he care about this so much? Why does he not want people to vote? Is he just a horrible racist? Is he just evil? Like, I legit don't understand it. Like, what, I get maybe I get why some corporate CEO might not want it or something like that. Why does John Roberts give a fuck who votes and who doesn't?
It's a really good question, and I wish I had an answer to it. I mean, I tried to talk to him. He was unsurprisingly not interested in talking to me. When you look back at John Roberts' life history, he grew up in a small town in Indiana. His dad was a Bethlehem Steel executive, and they moved there from New York. He grew up in one of the most segregated towns in America. I went back and looked at some of the materials that his town used to market itself back then, and they marketed themselves as a white segregated community. He grew up attending Catholic schools and then brand new private schools that were just created there for the sons and daughters of Indiana privilege. It was he likes to talk as if he's like a Midwestern kid who grew up, in a John Cougar song. When in reality, this is lakefront on the other side of Chicago for executives who ran McDonald's and things like that. And he went on from there to Harvard. And he was sort of cosseted in privilege his entire life. He was never exposed to anything, right? While John Lewis was attending his private schools in Indiana, his lily white, John Lewis was on the Pettus Bridge in Selma, getting his brains knocked out and being attacked by dogs for daring to ask for his right to vote. It's, as if they grew up in 2 completely different worlds, it's because they did. And Roberts just moved smoothly up this ladder, right? He moves from Harvard to Harvard Law School to a clerkship with William Rehnquist at the Supreme Court, and then right into DOJ. So I'm not sure he's ever had to question a single assumption that he started with growing up at age 7.
And it could be as simple as, because there was that massive failure in 1982, that sort of, if he's in any way in a cluster of narcissism, of personality, that created some kind of narcissistic injury where he just has to be right. He just, God only knows what kind of chips he put on the table for his own integrity and identity by fighting against this in 82, but then to lose, maybe it's his life mission because he just has to be right. It's, who knows? But he's
the
not.
Psychology of Roberts is fascinating, and maybe he'll write a memoir.
Maybe
we can
we
get
know what he's not.
a little bit of insight, but what we have is his record. What we have is the record of what he did as a young man in the Reagan White House, and I've got all the memos and all of the op-eds he ghosted and all of the talking points he wrote for attorneys general as they were fighting the Voting Rights Act, and he is strong-willed and determined and intent. And that same intention has marked him on the court, where when you look at what this court has done on democracy issues, when you start with the Crawford decision that back in 2006 on voter ID, which really enables the entire myth of voter fraud 10 years before Donald Trump even comes on the national stage, to the decision in Citizens United on unleashing billions of dollars of dark money into our political system, then on to the Shelby County decision that effectively undoes the Voting Rights Act and its most effective enforcement mechanism. And then you move on to the decisions on partisan gerrymandering and Common Cause versus Rucho, the later decisions on the Voting Rights Act. This is somebody who, in case after case, has put his thumb on the scale for the Republican Party that has placed him in power. This is somebody who has, every single time, questions have come before the court that have been about voters or conservatives. John Roberts has sided with conservatives over and over and over. And yet the mainstream media continues to paint him as a moderate, a centrist, a good Midwestern umpire, simply calling balls and strikes. This is the myth of Roberts. It's extraordinarily dangerous. John Roberts has done as much as anybody else to create the crisis of democracy that we are facing today.
Wow.
Well said.
Well said.
We hate his fucking guts on this show, by the way.
Yeah,
We've come to the right place.
You're not going to hear any pushback.
This is his court. Look at what he's allowing to happen. I mean, that just on in every other issue. But now that you brought focus to his own sort of like, this is, you've got Sam Alito flying flags upside down and spewing 4chan nonsense. That's his passion, is those creepos. And then you've got John Roberts saying, I'm just going to make sure that only white people vote. It's just, I can't with these people. We need reform. And not just because I don't like the choices that are there. And I don't like, I want a progressive court. It's that these are crusaders. These are weirdo theist crusaders that there's something going on with them that has nothing to do with the Constitution, that is driving their decision-making and their passion. And they won't stop. They're radical extremists. So there's no, it doesn't matter what anybody brings in front of them. They're finding their ways to make sure that only the stuff that comes in front of them is the stuff that they are interested in, and ruling on one way or another. So they've got that little machine going, and this is all under him. But they also just, they have a foot on a gas pedal right now. I wanted to ask you about that and whether you're aware of this, that I think it was the last, was it 2 or 3 presidents before the Donald Trump term and now into Joe Biden, they would take like 7, what is it, the expedited docket? What is that, Greg?
The shadow docket.
Rocket docket, whatever.
It's not the rocket. What is it, David?
The shadow docket, yes.
The shadow docket, but also the one where they go fast, right? So where it just jumps the top of the line. Now they've done 44 or something, where it was just like 7 maybe a year, and that it's like, or in the all those sorts. So there's a gas pedal, there's a floor pedal to the metal. We're gonna get this done. I'm terrified about it. What can you, before any reform can happen, maybe even, and even the preemptive stuff of like, well, let's just make sure that nobody can reform us, right? And then they're coming up with legislative stuff on their own and ruling on shit that affects them directly to keep them shielded from any guardrails ever coming their way. So what do you see? Let's talk about voting rights in particular. I know a lot has happened this week, something decided today or something. What do you see on the horizon, or what do we have to worry about since you finished your book? It just hasn't stopped because of this.
No, I think you've got your finger on a lot of what is happening. They are patient, they are strategic, they have a long-term plan, and they stick to it. The story I try to tell here is that this plan has been in place since the early 1970s, and they have relentlessly stuck to it over all of that time, one piece at a time, consolidating this sort of power until we have reached this moment in which it's really in many ways locked up for them. The machine that you talk about is extraordinarily efficient. What has happened is not only has Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society handpicked the conservative supermajority, but they are funding the litigation around the country that gets to the court. They're funding the amicus briefs that support that litigation. They're funding the law firms who file those cases, who are filled with former Supreme Court clerks who worked under the conservative justices. And they are funding the Federalist Society and the law school legal research into the theories that they stuff into these cases and then put before the judges and the justices that they have handpicked, right? So if you look at Citizens United, for example, it's exactly that. All of the legal theories that they use in Citizens United were grown in the Federalist Society hothouse over years, and they funded every single piece of this. The Shelby County case eviscerating voting rights is really exactly the same way, piece by piece. So if we want to unravel this, we have to attack the knot strand by strand. It's not going to be easy. There is no simple fix. There's no silver bullet here. They've been working at this for 50 years, and unraveling it is going to take a lot of time. I see Greg pointing at me. I'm going to shut up. No. This is the Gordian knot, and Alexander took out his sword and sliced through the Gordian knot. And all we have to do is be like, guess what, guys? There's going to be 81 justices now. Yes. Fuck off. And then all of their 50 years of work goes poof, up in smoke. And you're going to have to ride circuit, and most of you are going to go to Alaska. Here's a horse. And you're not going to have this fancy building. There's a little fishing studio. It's not exactly as nice as the one you stayed in, Justice Alito, when you were on your Federalist Society junket. Fishing trip. It's not going to be $1,000 bottles of wine being served for you, but we hope you enjoy the new Alaska circuit. If this Supreme Court wants to act like a 9-person legislature, why don't we expand it to a 155-person legislature, and let's just admit what it is. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, we can't pack the court and add justices because then they'll get in power and do the same thing." Great. Let's keep going, and let's just show the absurdity of this, because this court is not a court. And once we stop propping it up, once we stop having Warren-era fantasies of what the Supreme Court can do, once we put aside the paper chase or whatever old movie we're all watching and dreaming about how good the law can be to kill a mockingbird or something, this is politics. This is a third branch of government that is acting like a third political branch of government, not a neutral arbiter. It is collecting and vacuuming as much power as it possibly can under its own aegis. And we can either whack that Gordian knot or we can live with it. But let's not pretend that, there's institutional credibility here that we have to worry about. They have taken care of that for us.
Yeah. Denial is not our friend here.
No. It's what I was talking about before, like with there needs to be big sweeping change. And the virtue of having even 155 justices is that it's harder to capture the court that way. Yep. Yeah, how easy is it to, I'm sorry, Clarence Thomas, how many millions of dollars did he take? Those are fucking bribes. It doesn't cost very much in the grand scheme of things to pay off 5 people.
5 people. It's easy. Yeah. It's really
very easy. Oh my God, Amy Coney, you're going to write a book. Wow. Here's a book deal, Amy Coney Barrett. Is $2 million enough?
Would you like 3? Because I could do 3. Here we go. Yeah.
You've written books. How long will it take her to get that advance back, Dave?
Oh boy. If I were to stretch out my books and try to get to 3 million, I would have to write about 79 more books.
Yeah, I'd have to write about 3 million more. It would take the rest of all of our lifetimes. We would wait until the end of time, and Amy Coney Barrett would get her advance back, and then Merrick Garland would start to indict people. That would be the order of operations. Ha ha.
Yeah, it does sound like Merrick Garland might actually start to indict people by 2214. That seems about the time.
I think we once had an animation of him crawling out of the rubble of Armageddon.
Yeah, we did.
Ready to do justice finally. Yeah.
We did. It was yeah. So okay, but now we have to talk about fuckery a little bit, because
yes,
there is an election coming up, as you know. And the Republicans are going to cheat and scheme and do whatever they can think to do, whatever crooked spaghetti they can throw at the wall, they will throw at the wall, hoping that something sticks. If this thing is close at all and it gets kicked back to the House, it's going to go to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS is going to give Trump the presidency. So talk a little bit about that, because first of all, what are these scenarios? How realistic are they? What can we do to prevent them? And is it like, if this was a movie, it would just be as simple as Kamala Harris not certifying their fake electors, right? I mean, I don't know. That's it. But talk about that a little bit, because I know that this is a real concern for a lot of people.
I think it's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would start by saying this isn't some sort of doom and gloom fever dream.
Paranoid fan,
This happened in the year 2000, and it's called Bush versus Gore.
Mm-hmm.
And Bush versus Gore was proof of concept for the conservative intentions to build and capture the courts, because Bush versus Gore proved how important it can be to have that tiebreaker and to pick the president 5-4. It is also, of course, should never go unmentioned that 3 of the current justices worked on the George W. Bush campaign on Bush v. Gore, and that's Roberts and Kavanaugh and Barrett. So that helped prove their bona fides and put them on the court. Republicans are planning right now to throw all of that spaghetti against the wall that you talked about, Greg. There's about 95 cases that they filed in something close to 24 states. And they are going to keep throwing things up against the wall and hope that something sticks. The 2020 election was not close enough to have anything stick. They would have had to have reversed too many states, and this court even this court wasn't going to do that. But if it comes down to one state, like it did in 2000, if you're talking about 500 votes in Florida, and suddenly there's all kinds of issues that have to go before the court in the 6-week period between election day and the certification of the electors, I think all bets are off, right? I mean, I think we should be thinking about election day as the end of the first election, and that there's a second period that's going to go those 6 weeks in between. And there will be 180 million of us voting in that first election, and there will be 9 voting in the second one. And we ought to be deeply concerned about the kinds of cases that they could bring that could throw chaos into certification, into elector slates, in the kinds of red states where Republicans have complete control of the process. Democrats are in a little bit of a better shape in 2020 than 2024 than they were in 2020, given that there's a Republican, given that there's now a Democratic governor in Arizona. So there's less chance of fuckery, being effective now, I think, in Wisconsin, in Pennsylvania and Arizona. But should we worry about it in Georgia, in Florida, in North Carolina? Absolutely.
So they found the votes then. They've had 4 years to find the votes in Georgia, and they've found them. Okay.
Yeah. That's
all they needed was 5 votes, and they've got those on the U.S. Supreme Court.
And
see, the thing, my hope here is that I don't think that Biden is going to stand for a fuckery. I mean, I think if Kamala wins the popular vote and Kamala wins in the Electoral College and they try shit, I think that's going to make him mad, and we're going to get the darkest fucking Brandon we can possibly imagine, and it's not going to be good.
I'd like to. Well, I hope we don't have to see that, because I mean, I think if it gets to that scenario, we were all around in 2000. Everybody sort of threw their hands up in the air and said, "Okay, well, that's what the Supreme Court said. I guess the recount is over." I think it's a lot more difficult to imagine it going as quietly and peaceably this time.
Yeah.
Well, also, Al Gore said, he preempted it even to a certain degree with his sort of conceding and just accepting and not fighting. There was fight left. It's not the same combination of people this time. I'm more hopeful about it all, but yeah, they're going to try everything. And if that's where they waste all of their money, I want it to not work, all of it to not work. And if, tens of millions of dollars go down the drain into just the fat cat lawyer pockets from these activists and the big money people, I think also it's not just Leonard Leo and the Federalist Society. I'm very skeptical of all of the Silicon Valley money. There's no tracking the foreign money. So there's a lot of very, very wealthy people that have their hands in this pot, and will try to throw more money. And I hope it all just goes down the drain. That is my hope. I just want all these people to lose so much that they never try this again.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen. Okay, should we move to topic 4?
I think we should move on.
This was great. That was wonderful.
You gave us some wow lines. I'm going to see if we can't grab some of this. God, thank you for all of that. It's shocking. I'm glad the focus is on John Roberts, as it should be, as it needs to continue to be until he's gone. Yeah. Or this court is reformed. Amen. Because it's all at his bidding. I mean, there was a long time there where Jenny Thomas was running the Supreme Court, because that's how weak and ineffective he is for stuff that he doesn't care about, like our democracy. He doesn't give a crap about that. Let Jenny run things, right? And then when it's voting rights, he finds himself.
I feel like it's just his name is so boring. Helps. I'm not even joking. It's like Kevin Roberts is the same thing. It's just like these MAGA guys, like Mike Johnson and Mike Davis.
How can you be mad at Mike Johnson? Right? He's just he's your insurance agent.
Yeah, Mike
God.
Johnson, and that's the thing. John Roberts. If his last name was Loudermilk, I think it would be different. That's all.
Right. I mean, I would buy a used car from him, but not a used
JD
car.
Vance, he's proven that you can just keep changing your name. It doesn't matter. We'll just change it anyway. We just keep changing. Just keep transforming.
Oh my God, JD Vance. We're in like week 3 now of Couch Fucker. It's very funny.
And it's still funny.
It's still good. It has rescued Twitter. It has saved Twitter. I'm just so excited about it. I can't even tell you. All right, let's go into our 4th segment, if you don't mind, David. So we were talking about this a little bit before the show, just to sort of catch up on it. I love that. I love the title of the segment, Walk Like an Egyptian.
I'm going to do my Susanna Hoffs dance if you're not careful.
Yeah.
We're not letting you leave until you do. Now that's
you got to do a little Susanna Hoffs for us. So here's what happened. So there's the Washington Post through via Carol Lenning is reporting that breaking news: Egypt gave Donald Trump a bunch of money when he needed it most in 2016, when his coffers were dry. Had run out, and he'd been saying, I'll just fund my own campaign. He hadn't done it yet, and everybody was turning to him in the GOP, and even his campaign say, well, hello, Mr. I'm a billionaire. I'm going to fund my own campaign. We're out of money. We can't pay our staffers. You need to put some money in there. We need about $10 million. And he held off. He finally did it. And it turns out we now know that he did it because Egypt gave it to him, or he knew it was coming. There was a timing event there. Now, some of you who've been following us for a long time, and especially my Twitter followers, will notice that this is not so breaking news. This was breaking in 2019, maybe, but not so breaking now. And certainly I reported on it, or consolidated reporting, made some videos, had a lot of fun with it, as dangerous as it all was, because it was so clear that Donald Trump was taking bribes and from foreign governments. And then anybody who bothered to read the Mueller report, clearly not anyone at the Washington Post, because they think this is all breaking news, could see that it was in there. It's mentioned in the Senate intelligence report. There was reporting on George Papadopoulos that he was actually in bed with the Egyptian intelligence services and maybe, orchestrating some meet and greets and working with the Sisi to make sure that President Trump, all of this was swirling around. The fact that this Egyptian authoritarian regime that we weren't acknowledging as democratically elected and we had issues with before Trump came into office, all of a sudden it was Donald Trump saying he's my favorite authoritarian and propping him up as one of the first, if not the first foreign, that's a big thing, to be the first leader of a foreign nation to visit the new president. And it's this guy, that it's like that guy that no one was taking him seriously. Of course, when Donald did his first overseas trips, that was also a big deal for any first-time president to go overseas and visit nations. What did he do? He went on the shit on all that's holy tour. Remember that? He went first to Saudi Arabia and he visited all these holy sites. Then Israel eventually, and the Vatican, the Pope was not wanting to touch him and is looking very morose. That trip with the sword dancing and the orb, fondling the orb. And some of us were pointing out, okay, who's fondling this orb with him? Obviously, the senile king of Saudi Arabia is there. Somehow they got him there to where he's like, oh, he's got his hands on the orb with his decrepit bone saw son somewhere in the background. And then, the president of Egypt. Why is he fondling the orb? What is the orb and why is he fondling it with Donald Trump? So this was what this reporting now is out today. And there is a lot in there. It's just that, what did the FBI know? What did the Justice Department know? When did they know it about all of this? Yes, there had been reporting that there was money coming through an Egyptian bank to Donald Trump, $10 million. The most highly illegal thing you can do as a presidential candidate is take money from a foreign power directly into your campaign. Yes, the reporting was there 4 years ago, but we didn't really have any reporting around what an investigation might look like into this. Was it afoot? Was it just within the special counsel's office? What was happening at the Justice Department with the FBI in this investigation, and where it would fall under eventually by the time they had a case under Bill Barr, because Donald was already in as president, and this whole investigation was ramping up and the evidence was overwhelming at the time that Bill Barr was AG. So what happened? Well, there's suspected by our intelligence agency. So that means this is it. What they're saying is the truth. There's a front for Egyptian intelligence services, the GIS, which is like their CIA, a front company for that intelligence services in Egypt that had a bank account with the National Bank, which is state-owned bank. And they were able to write a letter to the bank saying, hey, we need $10 million in cash, in U.S. cash, in $100 bills, in these 2 suitcases. Can you get that for us? We like that. And they were like, sure, we'll get that to you. And that has to go through CC. It has to go, right? So they somehow had $10 million US in reserve. That was probably a huge portion. And the reporting is saying it was a significant percentage of whatever their US currency reserves were at this national bank, loaded up into bags that weighed, I don't know, they even gave the weight of what these bags were, and delivered to the Trump campaign.
Is that bad?
I mean, I've always said everybody has this myth, this movie myth of gangsters. If David, you don't know, I don't know if you know my work, but I do a lot on organized crime, that there's bags of cash floating around, but it's really just opaque bank accounts and money laundering, and it's all happening offshore. This was both. This was both. It was like the bags of cash. But it started with, there's a piece in the reporting that's also new, not that these investigators discovered this, they did confirm it, or the Washington Post journalists, the investigative journalists, not investigators, it was came unsealed in some of the underlying evidence from the special counsel. So that we got to see, oh, there's a China connection here, which had been suspected. Well, the China connection were the Shanghai-based offices of this front company for GIS. So it's still an Egyptian ordeal there, intelligence services ordeal going on in China, and probably they're very closely aligned. And it could even have been China saying, all right, we'll give you the money. You put it through here. We'll put it through you. Who knows, right? Or China could have gone to, who knows how many intermediaries, because Bill Barr shut down the investigation. So the FBI is asking. There was a deputy attorney general, a woman named Jessie Liu, I believe, who was overseeing this whole thing. And she just lost her spine altogether, didn't want to really investigate. Even though the FBI, and it looks like the FBI was going, no. We have bags of cash. Oh, we have memos. We have bank transfers. We have all this evidence. We know that it's a GIS front that's coming from the intelligence things. We're confirming all this stuff. Oh my God. He took $10 million in cash in bags and put it into his campaign. And we've got a lot of proof, but we've got to get to where the money originated from. We know there's this Chinese bank, and it went offshore into the blah, 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 into the Egyptian National Bank. We're trying to figure that out. And we need to look deeper into Trump's accounts, because we have a lot of things and transactions that are lining up. But this warrants an investigation a little further. And that's where the Justice Department under Bill Barr just kept putting the brakes on it. Now, they did it. There was several people. It wasn't just Bill Barr saying no, and this woman, Jessie, another deputy comes under. They're like shutting it down because the FBI kept going, please, this is bad. This is a big crime. We've got a big crime happening here. We need to pursue the crime and pursue the evidence. And it was the Justice Department stopping them and blunting them, giving them hope and then blunting them. Then but it didn't get officially closed. It was still an investigation that could have been picked up with a new attorney general coming in. It was left that way. And Merrick Garland allowed it to expire. He had a year to pick this ball up and put new investigators on it and keep the whole thing going. And he let it expire. So it is dead now, and it went dead under Merrick Garland after a year. just so everybody's clear about that. And the excuse in the article was, well, the January 6th was the biggest investigation in all history in terms of FBI resources and how many individuals they're looking at. And that sort of took over for everything. But I don't know how you separate January 6th from this $10 million that came into this campaign. It's the same goddamn thing. We're talking about a corrupt presidency that sought seditiously to overthrow the government in order to stay in power, actually getting into that position of power in the first place because of another authoritarian regime was funneling him cash in order to pay for it, for the presidency that he purchased with foreign fucking money. So that's the reporting, everybody.
Does it require like 17 teams of FBI to investigate this crime? Because I feel like one dude could do this by lunchtime. It's just like, oh, here's money. It came in. That's it. Either the money came or it didn't,
Well, you have to have access to those bank accounts. You've got to get subpoenas. You've got to get it's the Justice Department has to sign off on these things. The FBI can't do it without the Justice Department signing off on it.
I'm excited for Tish James to be the Attorney General in 2025. I'm very excited for this.
I hope she is.
Yeah, me too.
She knows how to get into that man's bank accounts.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
And I said this at the time, and David, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but this whole the cowardice. I understand Bill Barr, yet another Catholic weirdo, right? In with all these books. I understand that political creature. Everybody else, I'm sorry. You're just weak, right? Because the excuse of we don't want to appear political, to fail to investigate a crime, especially a crime like this, because you don't want to be perceived as being political, is in and of itself the most political thing you can do when you're at the Justice Department. Because you're saying we're actually not going to pursue the facts wherever they might lead, because we're so fucking intimidated and afraid of politics and how we might be viewed. That's political.
Yes. I mean,
cheers.
Amen. It's like Rush, free will. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
I think we fail to understand, well, not we. I think the Democratic Party has failed to understand what it is up against for some time now. Yeah. And I tell this story in the book. And I've written a lot about redistricting and gerrymandering over the years. And I did a previous book called Ratfucked. I can actually use the name of the book on the show, which is a nice change because even my mom doesn't know that that book exists. And that book was all about a Republican operation called Red Map, the Redistricting Majority Project, which they executed in 2010 with the goal of taking over every seat at the table when it came to redistricting swing states and red states around the country. And they captured state legislatures. It was brilliant, right? I mean, you capture state legislatures in a year ending in 0, and then you redistrict the hell out of Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Michigan, Ohio, and those states are still living with the anti-democratic consequences of this. And Karl Rove wrote a piece in the Wall Street Journal, a little small blog, in March of 2010 that was called, he essentially said, we are going to take over state legislatures, and then we are going to redistrict the entire country, and we're going to control the House for the next decade. And he said where they were going to do this, in Texas and Indiana and Pennsylvania. He mentioned the precise towns. And I don't know if Democrats just didn't get their Wall Street Journal that day, or if they just said, come on, give me a break. He's not really going to do that. Democrats didn't need the imagination to go ahead and run this really crafty strategic play. what they needed to do was defend 107 state legislative seats in 16 states. Do you think you could do that? And they failed. And in 2012, Democratic candidates win 1.4 million more votes for the U.S. House, but Republicans hold the 33-seat edge. And I tell the story in the book. Eric Holder is with Barack Obama. They're in the Oval Office about a month after the election, and they are looking at the maps, and they're like, we thought we had a really good night. What happened to us in North Carolina? Why is the North Carolina congressional delegation 10-3? Why? We won Pennsylvania, so why is it a 13-5 congressional delegation? And what happened to the State House in Wisconsin? They hadn't heard about Red Map. And, I don't blame Holder and Obama. They had a couple of other things on their minds than, trying to win the state legislative race in Round Rock, Texas. But Obama's second term essentially ended on the night that he was reelected to it, because Republicans in the House had veto power over every single thing for the rest. And he wasn't able to win really anything through Congress the rest of his time in office. And this was because Republicans played to win. And whether it's the court or whether it's state legislatures, they have figured out where the pressure points are in our democracy, and they have thrown the money and the strategy at winning and controlling those pressure points. And here we are with these big Gordian knots tied up. And when you then factor in the Electoral College and the benefit Republicans have in the U.S. Senate, the fact that by 2035 you're going to have 70% of the country living in 15 states, so you're going to have 30% of the country with 70 seats in the U.S. Senate. This is all piling up. And we haven't done anything about it because, that would be political, or we don't want to upset the other side. No, it's time to do something about it or live with the consequences.
Yeah. Well said. I did not know that about Holder and Obama, that story, but it's not surprising. It's not surprising Obama didn't.
That's a story I knew, because Holder then made it his mission to attack redistricting and all of that. Yeah. And even Obama was putting out some messaging post-presidency, so during Donald's term.
They understand what happened now.
This is the most critical, important thing that we can do, because it strangled them. But they also weren't willing to get creative, and he wasn't willing to use the power that he did have. He didn't have to. He actually could have challenged holding the Mitch McConnell's garbage. Mitch McConnell also a key individual of making all of this work happen.
And we barely fought to get Merrick Garland on the court. I mean, Greg made a joke earlier about a Democratic president who took the last year off, and I think I know who he means.
Yeah,
right? Because Garland was announced, and then it just sort of disappeared. No, Mitch says no. I guess we just have to.
What the fuck is Mitch McConnell?
Even in the moment, you just say, I say, if you don't vote on this guy for confirmation within 60 days, I'm ordering him to the Supreme Court because I'm going to assume it's a tacit approval. And then put the ball in the fucking court. Put some pressure. He didn't want to piss anybody off. He was too busy doing his stuff, and that's it. He also, by the way, could have named a special counsel on November 15th, 2016, and it could have been somebody that wasn't a half-dead Republican, for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ. It's true, though. God bless the guy, but
God bless him.
Why are the special counsels? They're always Republicans. Jack Smith is the first ever Democrat who's ever been a special counsel, but Clarence Thomas says that he's just nobody. So I guess we have to accept that too. We just have to roll over it. Yeah, pour it. Keep pouring.
Keep pouring it. All right, guys.
All right, announcements.
This is our announcement section, David.
Let's do this. Let's show the copy.
So we're going to show your book.
There we go. I got this right here.
I don't have one. I have it in PDF, but I don't have it here. Yeah. Inside the far right's 50-year plot to control American elections. So what we have been discussing tonight, that's the book. You can get it anywhere. That's our big announcement. Where can people see you in the coming days? Do you have some media hits you're doing so that folks can know to tune in?
Yeah, I think I'm. It looks as if I'm on Morning Joe on Monday morning.
Okay,
wow.
wonderful.
So I'm gonna load up on Rosé for that.
Yeah.
Just stay up all night and then go. I think that's my advice.
Go.
I think
Yeah, I
that'd be
think.
great.
I'm curious. I've never done that show. I'm a little curious to see how that.
Oh,
how
you'll
that
be
goes.
great.
I think it'll be really fun.
All right. So
and then there's various things over the course of the week, and hopefully in a bookstore near you, or if you've got a bookstore or a book group or you're whatever, find me on Twitter. Reach out, say hello.
Yeah, book comes out on Tuesday. By the way, we should say.
There we go. HarperCollins.
Yeah.
True Player with the link. So you can click on that, guys, and you can just buy it. And here is David's Twitter. So you'll be keeping us up to date on Twitter. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Politics. Okay. All right. Greg, do you have any announcements?
My announcements are next week I'm out. You're gonna be here by yourself or with a.
I gotta figure it out. I don't know.
We may or may not. It may or may
might
not.
have David come back and co-host with me. Yeah. All right.
He's in.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. I'm in Chicago all week for coin things. By the way, $10 million, $1 million, $100,000 is a brick. You know, in the banknote business, a brick is 1,000 banknotes, and it's like the size of a brick, basically, maybe 2 bricks stuck together. So if you imagine that as 1,000 and there's 10 of them, that's $1 million. So it's not as big as you think. Yeah.
And there's 10 of them. It's heavy though. It was heavy.
It's heavy. Yeah.
It's
we had a
heavy.
lot of fun trying to figure out how much money was on the pile of cash that we're sitting on in Breaking Bad. Like really breaking it down. And
Really breaking it down. This is what happens. Yeah. This is the money nerd out. Okay, so you're going to be gone. However, if we have a VP pick next week, we'll look for your tweets. Maybe you'll do a little video hit because you've been doing those on your Twitter. I know everybody's going to want to hear from you.
Yeah, I'll do something. I'll contribute something to the cause.
Okay, great.
Also, the show, we're not going to be here on the 23rd and the 30th of August.
That's true.
Yeah. Even though it is the DNC that week, I'm gonna go ahead and say right now, the DNC is going to be awesome. It's going to be wonderful. We all love it. You know? It's
going to be wonderful. Yeah. Okay, David, you get to be here for my thing. Let me see if you guys can see this. I have to have something removed from my eye. Is it this eye? Is this eye?
Okay.
So I'm supposed to look the same when I come back. I promise you this is not a thing I'm doing, but I might have some black eyes. But I'm hoping I could wear some sunglasses. So when we come back in September, that's what I do. But we have kids going off to school. We've got stuff going on, guys. So we are taking 2 weeks off at the end of August. And then we'll see everybody when we're back. And we're not there yet. All right.
See you in September.
So I just have the normal. If you're enjoying the show, like, subscribe, become a member. We're not doing an after-hour snipe, but probably next week. We'll see how that goes. Because I'm either all alone or I'm with David and maybe a bunch of rosé. We might not even be functioning still at that point. All right, everybody.
After hours will be the show.
After hours of the show, we'll just keep going. Okay, here we go. 8 minutes on the clock for our last thing. We just wanted to talk about the Olympics. I think they're wonderful. David, what do you think? Are you watching the Olympics? Do you have anything that you've seen? I know you're crazy busy with your book.
I've seen nothing. I
nothing?
usually love to watch the Olympics, and I have not really watched at all, unfortunately. I hope to. This last week before book publication is all about writing op-eds and making sure the endnotes are perfect, and it's been all-consuming, exhausting, and I have barely even turned on the TV, I'm afraid to say.
Okay, so we're going to tell you what you've missed.
Please do. I'm worthless here. I would like to know what's going on.
And by we mean her, because I've only watched that.
He hasn't either, and I haven't watched.
And I'm going to have some rosé and listen.
I'm into it. So Simone Biles, the greatest of all time, right? I don't even know how many medals she's picked up now. Taking care of herself. She had a big injury. She just did the floor for the group, but they won. Her other team members shining as brilliant as all of those women are. So they took team gold, and then she got some gold medals. I don't even know which one she got because I'm just watching her. The greatest thing about the Olympics is not just her, and she's incredible, and all these star athletes. And she said when she got another gold medal, her last, when it was all wrapped up for the individual events, she tweeted pictures of her with her gold medal and said, "Love my black job." God bless her. I love her. The greatest thing, and there was moments that she had with it, is that Snoop Dogg is the mascot for the whole Olympics, and it's the greatest for at least the U.S. side. But I think other countries are getting into him too. It's the greatest decision NBC ever made. I think they started it with comedians. The last kind of goes around, but there's something so pure about him. He's so into it. And he shows up at the events and he's like jamming, and the athletes see him, and it's just, you guys all have to watch it just for Snoop Dogg. I can't even emphasize that.
It's the Paris Games, so it's La Chien Snoop, I believe.
La Chien
Snoop.
Le Chien.
Oh, Le Chien.
Masculine.
Le Chien Snoop. It's been a long time.
Le Chien Snoop.
Yeah.
Okay, so Le Chien Snoop. He's winning every gold medal for me. Then there's been some viral sensations. And it's hard because, my family are very sensitive to gun violence and guns and everything. But there is, sharpshooting is a big sport at the Olympics. And there's this Turkish sharpshooter who, all the rest of them are they've got goggles and special eye gear. They take their poses and it's all da-da-da. And this guy shows up in an untucked t-shirt with one hand in his pocket, just raises his gun and goes, boom, and wins the silver medal. It's the greatest thing of all time. So I'm really into this guy too. I think, look for the Turkish guy. I think he's already won. I don't know that there's any more. I don't know anything about that sport, so I don't know if there's any more happening there. And then I think what we have coming up now, they did the diving, they did the gymnastics, a lot of the equestrian, which of course is on a loop in our house. But I think what's coming on next, we get into track and field next week. So everyone's got to tune in for this track and field, because the American team, especially the women, are insane. You're going to just see speeds that you've never seen before. So that's it. That's my Olympics update. I can't believe I was just giving that whole big update.
I like the update.
It's so exciting. The other weird thing that's been happening, and maybe folks have noticed this, is MAGA and JD Vance even, they are very confused. They think that the French are Americans because it's coming over their television sets, and they assume anything coming over their television, whatever they're seeing, is somehow related to them, which I guess in a big esoteric way it is, but they're very confused. They really think that what they're seeing that's representative of French culture is, they keep calling it the left, that Democrats. So they earnestly believe that the Democratic Party is somehow putting on the Olympics where they get offended, and they want to shut it all down and shut Democrats down. I really do think it's that simple. They're watching it on their TV, and they don't like it, and so it must be the Democrats. So that's also happening. And JD Vance is now there's a conspiracy brewing, because the LA Olympics are coming next to 2028. And since Kamala's from California and she's going to be the president then, and they're saying this, and she's going to be the president, that she's going to control so that it's only transgender athletes playing in the wrong sports.
That would be really fun to watch, actually. So, yeah.
That's very LA.
It's so like this whole trend.
So dumb.
It's so dumb. Okay, wait. I have something to share here. Let me see if hopefully this works. This is the guy you're talking about, I think. Can you see this?
Oh, there he is.
There.
Yeah, Gen Z, Gen X is so funny.
I love this so much. That there he is, just like, yeah, whatever. That's a guy. He's in the Tom Cruise movie, I think, right? Isn't it? Looks like.
I mean, he's cast right away, immediately. Put him in a movie. So, Michael Weiss, who I love so much, titled that SIGINT for the guy that's all like, and HUMANT for like. So I got a kick out of that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's fantastic. Good one. He's a viral sensation, and deservedly so. Deservedly so.
All I have to say is that the men are going to win the basketball. I watched the first game, and Kevin Durant had not played. Kevin Durant is one of the best basketball players ever, and he hadn't played because his calf was hurt. So they brought him off the bench, and he literally just made all of his shots. Like everyone was laughing because he was like, woo, here we go. Woo. He was like 8 for 8 in the first half. And it's just like destroying all confidence of the other team to the point where it's just, it's an unfair advantage. And we're going to win. We're going to win the gold.
It's our sport.
LeBron will not lose this shit, even though he's like not that much younger than me. It doesn't matter.
Has U.S. men's basketball ever lost the gold?
Oh yeah. No, they have. They've had these humiliating kind of things. And remember, they lost the gold back in 88, I guess. And that was what sparked the dream team, because we were like, fuck this shit. We're not losing ever again.
Since the pros could come in.
Yes, we have lost. But we've won good games too.
And Democrats need to take a lesson from that, right? We need to say, fuck this shit. Let's get in there and put an end to this losing. And let's take over these institutions and take them back.
That's it.
Well, we're not taking the bronze medal in men's basketball. And we're not going to take the bronze in gerrymandering either.
Gold medal guest right tonight. We delivered to you an Olympic champion of timing and end notes. So
timing, end notes, all of it. Okay, again, the book is called, here it is. It is called Antidemocratic: Inside the Far Right's 50-Year Plot to Control American Elections.
Now, before Daley, do you have something else, Greg?
No.
Okay. We always have a saying that we end the show on, David. And so I'll say that. Before we get to that, Greg, remember we've got something to queue up. We did want to let everybody know we have something special for you tonight. We're going to sign off with this, and then the end credits will come. So a hacker got us some footage from the Neuralink that Elon Musk implanted into Donald's brain. We weren't even aware it was in there, but we were given this file that lets us hear his thoughts that was recording his thoughts while he was sitting there at the National Association of Black Journalists, getting his ass handed to him. So we thought, as a special treat tonight, we would share this hacked information. I promise you it wasn't WikiLeaks. We don't know where this came from.
I think it was that Turkish guy with the gun. I'm pretty sure it was
I think the Turkish guy with the gun.
Yeah, I think it was him.
So gear up for that, everybody. Enjoy your cocktails. David, thank you so much for coming on with us tonight. We had the best time with you. We will all look for you next week on all the airwaves, because I know you're doing all your media hits, and I'll get back in touch with you about next week.
Let's do it. Let's have fun. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Because you know what? We're going to get through this.
You can access that feed on social media. BJ. Using the hashtag NABJFactCheck. Again, the hashtag is NABJFactCheck. We have a lot to get to. We do not want to waste any time. So let's bring out the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump.
This is not my song. This is not my walkout song. And I'm proud to be an American. For this time now I'm free. I won't forget the very night who gave it to me. And I'm proud to stand up. I'm going to sit down.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time.
You're welcome. I'm so happy.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room of your rivals. From Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from.
But they were so rude to me.
You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys.
I'm doing a
You've attacked
fantastic
black journalists,
job.
calling them a loser, saying the questions
I don't
that
like
they
this.
ask are, quote, stupid and racist.
Harris.
You've had dinner with a white supremacist
Harris.
at your Mar-a-Lago resort.
Harris.
So my question, sir,
Harris, you're
now
fired.
that you're asking black
Harris,
supporters
you're
to
fired.
vote for
I'm going
you,
to fire you right now.
why should black voters trust you after you have used
I
language
didn't listen
like
to a
that?
word you said. You're
First of
rude
all,
and I
don't
hate
think I've
you.
ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner.
It was
First
horrible.
question.
It was just horrible.
You don't even say hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network.
Don't say the N-word.
I think it's disgraceful that I came here, entrepreneurs, I've done
Say
so
black.
much, and you know, and I say
You all
this,
don't even know what it means to be
historically
black. I'm so
colleges
black.
and universities
You
were
don't
out of
even
money.
know.
They were stone
I'm
cold
the most
broke,
black.
and I
I'm the
saved
best
them,
at being
and I
black.
gave
I'm
them
better
long-term financing,
at being
and
black
nobody else was doing
than
it.
everybody
I think it's
here.
a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly
very
why
rude and
you
it was
would
very
do something like that.
black.
And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom?
can't-
She's going to do it with Zoom, and
Who
she's
is
not
Zoom?
coming.
Why
And
is
then you were
Zoom?
half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working.
I have
There was
respect for
something
black.
was wrong.
President, I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer
very
respect for
nasty
black.
question.
Rhetoric and why you
I
believe
have
You're
an answer
nasty
question.
and you're black.
I have been the best president
Don't say the
for the
N-word.
black population since
They're yelling for
Abraham
me.
Lincoln.
Better
This
than
is the
better
best
than
crowd
President Johnson
I've ever
signed the Voting
seen,
Rights
and
Act,
they
and
all
Kamala
love me.
Harris, who was the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket as a DEI hire.
What
Is
does
that
that mean?
acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead.
don't know what that
How do you
means.
define it?
Diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your
Use it-
definition?
That is,
Use it
that,
in
that
a
is
sentence.
Give me a
literally the
definition then.
words.
Would you give me a definition?
Yeah.
Don't say the
I didn't know
N-word.
she was black until a
Black.
number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known
Blackity
as
black.
So I don't
Black,
know, is
black,
she Indian
black.
or is she black?
She has always
Black.
You know
identified
what?
as a black
I
woman. She went to a
respect either
historically black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously
I
doesn't.
respect them so
Because
much, I
she was
kick them out of
Indian
my
all the way, and
apartments.
then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir,
She
do you
became a
believe
black.
I
that
think
she is
somebody should look into that
I
too.
said
when
that
you ask-
right.
I want to talk about why you're here today.
Thank you, Harris.
It is
You're
not
still
lost
fired.
on us how divided we are as a country.
It's
and
not my
if you were
fault.
coming today, we really got to see that we were divided along the
I'm a
lines of
uniter.
race, along the lines of gender. And there is this question of, in this moment where we are,
Grab him by the
come
pussy.
here, what is your message today?
My message is
Vagina.
to stop people from invading
Black.
our country that are people that
Jobs.
has a job.
All right.
And they're
Mr.
taking,
President,
Everybody that has a
the
job.
employment away from black
Millions,
people. They're
millions,
coming in, and they're coming in,
millions.
they're invading. It's an invasion
Millions,
of millions
say
of people,
millions.
probably
There
15,
we go.
16, 17
I
million.
say that plural because we live in communities of color that are different. We're not all the same. We don't vote the same. We don't think the same.
Sure.
It's not
I live in a
monolithic.
community in my
so
own
as you
room
come
that's
here today, I
different.
wanna
I have
talk about
different colors
something
of my skin. Of
that
part of my
bursts,
face is
and
orange, and the
this
rest
is
of my
the
body
weight
is
of
white.
the inflation.
That's very clear now. Good.
There must be an African American here. Who
It's
is
very
it?
clear. I hear you.
Okay, so
Must be at
Sonia
least
Massey,
one African
someone from
American
Illinois,
here
an
who
unarmed
likes
black
Trump.
woman, was shot the other day in
Somebody
her
likes
home
Trump.
by a deputy sheriff.
Oh.
The deputy has since
Elon
been
Musk,
charged with
my
murder.
favorite
You
African
said police
American.
would get immunity from prosecution
You're
if you
so
win.
black.
Why should someone like, what would those exceptions be? What would determine
If they were
who would
president
stay?
and they
Somebody,
shot
and it's a
somebody
very
on
close
Fifth
call, and
Avenue,
it's very
that's pretty
dangerous. And, you
exceptional
know,
if
they
you ask
have-
me.
The policeman's life.
About J.D. Vance for a little bit. He
No.
actually stumbles out of the gate. I don't know if you're hearing what we hear as reporters,
Boring.
but it's
Harris,
been a
you're
tough
so
couple of
fired.
weeks for him.
Talk
Why did
about
you
me.
choose J.D. Vance?
You haven't even looked at my
Why
ear.
Why did you choose him? And I'm having a hard time hearing too.
I
know
chose him
everybody out
because-
there.
I'm having a hard time
do
hearing
I.
because I was
I
shot in
chose
the
him
ear.
because-